Hello and welcome to the third prologue session of Moon's Remorse. Title episode is Bad Dice. We introduce today the character Jun, played by Jeremy Will R.W. And his character is a bit of a scoundrel who's made a bit of a name for himself, a bit of a reputation for himself in the city of Drayans. A lot of people understand that he knows his way around the city and knows his way in and out of the city as well. A friend of his named Igama has requested that Jun use some of his resources and his knowledge to assist in transporting a individual from outside of the city into the city, specifically into the noble district, where common folk typically are not allowed access. Jun knows his way around, though, and he should be able to get them in. He's made his way outside of the city to a roadside tavern known as the Sweet Misery Tavern and Inn. He's never been there, but he knows a couple of people who operate there. He's familiar with the barkeep, individual named Ian, and he makes his way through the door as we speak. Jeremy, Jun would see the following. The tavern's kind of dimly lit with candlelight, but there's kind of a blue aura to the place, probably from the water, pool of water in the center of the tavern. There aren't many people in this place. Most of the tables are not seated, but you can see that the tables that are seated only have a couple of individuals or just solo seating as he speaks. To your left, you see Igama sitting at a table. Behind him, there are a series of 3 curtains on the back wall, kind of at a raised level. You would know that this is typical in taverns in this area. It's private seating, and from what you can tell, there seems to be someone in the southernmost booth, and there seems to be one person in the northernmost booth. To your right, you see a half-orc who is sitting there with a spear at his side, kind of mounted. It looks like the spearhead has been set inside of a grate in the ground next to his feet. And he sits there at a table with a big pile of some sort of meat, you presume mutton, and it looks like 2 empty tankards and a half-full one that he's working on sloppily. You also notice that he's wearing the blue colors of the town guard, or the city guard, rather, who typically patrol the cities. They don't typically wear furs and such like he is doing, and they usually have a uniform look, but this one, he appears to be wearing a cloak of the City Watch. There are 3 City Watchmen as well, up to the northeast of you, closer to the bar. It seems that they are just talking, and they look like they're kind of road-weary traveling, but you do notice that they are kind of eyeing that half-orc. At the bar is a portly gentleman with a large axe set next to him, and of course you see the man who you've met in the city of Drayans, a man named Ian, who wears a green liberty cap with a yellow band across it. He has a mess of a beard and long hair, and seems to be talking to the portly gentleman just casually. That said, what would you like to do? Oh, sorry, one more note. Apologies. You do notice that there, as you were approaching, that this place is 2-storied. You are on the first floor, which is about a 10-foot ceiling. There does appear to be a break in the ceiling directly above you. Like the second floor is only kind of like an outward ring with an empty kind of balcony in the center. Does that make sense?
Kind of where the fountain is, where the hole is.
Bigger than that, but yeah, above the fountain as well. It's kind of over the fountain and over to like the east of the fountain. Kind of a large 30 by 20 foot hole in the ceiling. That leads up to the second floor. Here, hold on. So if you were to go upstairs, it would look like this.
Okay. But I would understand the upstairs is living quarters, rented rooms, and that's not where I'm meeting.
No, you can see Agama to your left.
Well, after scanning the room, I would probably just head over to Igama.
He gestures to the seat next to or to his side there, and you notice that there is a small clay decanter with a small clay cup next to it, very similar to the rice wine bottles of your from where you're from. Sits there like it's been ordered recently, like he was expecting you, and you can see that there's still a bit of steam rising out of the top of the bottle. Igama looks to you and nods and says, "Had any trouble getting out of here?"
No, nothing can be handled.
Good. I want to be on our way as soon as we can, but we do have plenty of time available to us. So, you're sure you're going to be able to get her through safe? No problems, right?
I don't see any issues with it.
Okay. Yeah, and he kind of is scratching his chin, kind of nervously looking over at the city watch, and it appears that they're looking over at him as well, or over in this kind of area, rather.
I'll take the seat next to him, kind of put my hand up, tell him, take it easy, and smell the wine before taking a drink.
Sure. Okay. You would see that, he's nervously kind of looking over there, and after you pour yourself a cup and take a sip of it, pretty tasty, he kind of moves the bottle back over to him and pours himself a small cup as well, taking it down quickly. He keeps his eyes over on the watch, and he says, "They came in shortly after after I arrived. I don't know if they're following me or not."
Why would they be following you?
I don't know. What do you know about our quarry? Well, our brother, our charge. What do you know about her?
Not terribly much.
Well, from what I've been told, she is she's wanted, specifically by a daimyo across the border. And you would know that the word daimyo means lord for the Seder Yujin. He says a daimyo from a town across the way, a city rather, named Oku. She apparently was a part of his house, and she left against the Lord's will.
What do you mean a part of his house?
He purchased her.
Like a chair?
Just like a chair, he nods. And you would know, back home, in home country, slavery is not legal here in Parnak, but slavery to certain degrees is very legal on the opposite side of the border, in that if a person's house dissolved, members of the house were given kind of a couple of options. They were either inducted into the houses of their neighbors or their master's master, or they were forced to commit ritual suicide.
Was there a bounty on her from over in Osu, or?
From what I understand,
What's the better job here?
From what I understand, they've sent extradition requests to the Duke and Drayans. He kind of looks down at the table and says, "This is going to be a difficult job, to be sure, but we need to make sure we get the City Watch off of our case here. I don't know if they're looking over here at me." And he kind of looks over and says, "Or if they're looking at that half-orc."
What's with that?
I don't know. I have no idea. If you'd like to meet the lady, she's in the booth behind me. Or if you'd like to play the field here and find out what we can do about these watchmen, or when they'll be on their way, that'd be helpful. He kind of looks to his cup again, empty now, pours himself another glass and sets it aside, takes it quick, and kind of just looks very nervous from what you can tell.
I'll tell him to go greet our guests, and I'll refill our bottle and head to the bar.
Okay. He moves behind the curtain taking care to not open it too wide. Okay. As you pass by the half-orc, he kind of looks up from his food, his face kind of buried in the bowl. He appears to be eating a bit of just slop, looks like rice, and he's forced bits of his meat into it as well. Once you finally get over to the bar, he doesn't really talk to you. He just kind of and then kind of looks back to his food. But once you get to the bar, Ian kind of...
What kind of look was it? Just dumb or?
Make an insight check.
I might have actually included something there.
Oh, I didn't mention it at the beginning, and I should have. But once you roll your dice, just for the sake of the camera, just tell me what the result is.
Oh, insight's 8.
Okay, you're not sure. He definitely looks dumb though. That's for sure. You walk over to the counter, the bar, and Ian kind of approaches over to you, and he says, "John, long time no see. Haven't been in the city for a while."
I give the half-orc a little wink as I walk by.
Okay.
Head over to Ian to greetings. It has been a while, and hand my empty bottle back to him.
He takes it and kind of says, "You looking for a refill?"
Yeah, why not?
You can see that behind him, on a small kind of hot plate, he has a pretty decent-sized jug that seems to be steaming, and he, takes a set of calipers, grabs that, and pours it into the clay decanter that you had, and then hands that to you. It's a bit hot. I figured you'd want more, so I made sure to keep it hot.
Excellent, thank you.
No problem.
What's the deal around town?
Well, out here, we've seen some worrisome things. There's a dragon in these parts now, and so the watch have been moving about, keep an eye for that. Dragon's name is Remorse, said to have been kind of up close to Squallow. If you're traveling on the roads, I wouldn't travel by night too much, and I'd say keep off the road when you take your rests, because heaven knows what that dragon will want.
Does it really matter where you rest when a dragon's involved?
I'd say under a tree is probably better out in the open.
I mean, outside is outside.
That's fair, but I'd rather have a tree over my head than not. He kind of shrugs.
Thanks for the tip.
You see that the portly gentleman kind of looks over to you curiously, and then if you kind of look at him, he kind of gives you a nod. You can also hear overhear the town or the city watchman, the patrol, kind of talking. It sounds like they are currently talking about reports of a dragon attack north of here, between here and Squallow, which is a town kind of closer to the border.
I'll lift my drink to the portly fellow as he eyes me and ask if he has any recommendations on avoiding the dragon as well, since he's out fighting it and doing his due diligence to keep us all safe.
Oh, the portly gentleman doesn't appear to be a guard type. He looks just like an adventurer type. Similar colors.
Oh,
Everything's
yeah,
kind
he's
of
wearing the same blue.
Yeah, so's Ian though. So's the orc. It was made for distractions, but he says to you,
I thank Ian for his service.
The portly gentleman says, "Yeah, I've been transporting folks between here and there. Do you need a guard? I mean, I'm not terribly expensive. Where are you headed, Drayens or Squallow?"
Well, I'm not sure yet. I haven't decided. When
Well,
you say not expensive, I mean, how not expensive are we talking?
if you're heading to Squallow, safe passage there, 1 gold. You're heading to Drayens, safe passage there, 2 gold.
That's guaranteed safe passage?
I mean, as long as I'm alive, you'll be safe.
Huh. It's a tempting offer. I may have to come back to you. How long are you going to be around?
I mean, I'm here all night.
Excellent. What do you know about the town guard? How they been dealing with this dragon?
As you kind of say that, and Padraig is kind of, this portly gentleman's kind of sitting close to them, the guard kind of look over to you and say, "Huh? What was that?"
I was just wondering how well you guys are doing with this dragon running around.
Oh, it's a good question. So we've been we're heading north to Squallow. We have heard reports that there was an attack on a caravan between here and there, and we just stopped for the night because we've been traveling hard all day. As you know, Draen's not exactly too terribly close, but close enough. And the guy who's talking to you kind of nods. He's the one that's closest to you, who kind of looks like, just a typical guy. The dude with the mustache, though, is kind of looking at you suspiciously, and you can just tell it's suspicious. The guy in the back is still looking over at the half-orc.
Was he done talking? I thought you cut off mid-sentence.
Oh, did I cut off?
I don't know, maybe not.
Okay, no,
yeah. A lot of work watching these dragons.
Okay, they are.
When I asked the one that was talking to me when they're planning on heading north to Squallow.
Well, we got a room, so we'll head out in the morning.
I see. Huh. I might follow, not too closely behind, but I might try to follow you guys up there. I mean, safety in numbers, you're heading that way anyway.
Yeah, that's fine. Sure. That's our job.
Well, thanks for your service, boys. It's great to see you out there.
Mm-hmm. As you kind of start to walk away, the man with the mustache, he says to you, "Are you a citizen of Parnak? You look familiar. I think I've heard of you."
Parnak? No. I'm a bit of an import.
So did you have did you have passing papers to be able to pass over the border? And if so, where are they? He starts to get up from his table.
Do I?
Okay. Just make a quick deception check.
Ooh, this will go great.
You say, "Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do," and you pull out your documents. Basically, for passing papers, they typically keep them in a small wooden box, kind of wallet-sized, folded over in threes, and 2 sets of papers. Basically, any documentation transferred from your language, Shini's, to the common tongue. And then the other document would basically be a Parnak official document. Your stuff is not legit. You kind of worked in handcrafting it yourself and with assistance. So you hand the papers over to these guys, or the mustache guy, and he kind of looks at you and he says, "Okay, that's fine, Sanjuro. Be along your way."
Thanks. I offer to buy them drinks for their service.
He nods, and Ian obliges, walking out and setting a couple of glasses out in front of him. And he nods to you.
I kind of motioned to the chair, asking if I could sit a minute.
Yeah, it's fun. Well, there isn't a chair that they have available to them, but you pull one from the other table right along and sit with them.
And, as I'm sitting there, I kind of lean to my left to the guy that we haven't spoken to yet, that's been eyeing the ogre, and ask him what's up with this guy.
He kind of leans in and whispers to you, and he says, he's wearing a city watch cloak. I don't know where he got it. I don't know what we should do. Should we just ask him?" And the other
Is
side,
that one of you?
"He's not one of us," says the guy who was talking to you initially. The bearded guy, or the guy with the mustache, says, "We haven't asked him for his papers because we think he's one of the stag tribe." And you look over at him again, and you notice that, like, behind his cloak, he does have a pair of, like, antlers kind of set on his back, like a back banner.
Do I know the stag tribe?
You haven't really heard of them. You're not much of an outside guy, but I'll let you go ahead and make a intelligence check, history if you've got it, to try and see if you've heard any rumors. Yeah, actually. So the stag tribe is a small group of wavemen, or ronin, who travel in between and kind of border cross when they want to. From what you understand, they hunt deer, elk, stags, etc. But they don't really care much for either side's laws. They've kind of created their own tribe that focuses on just the survival of the tribe. They trade with either city if it's allowed, but they're kind of regarded as stay away from. And if you're trading with them, you're probably going to be bullied into trading out of your favor.
Huh. I just keep staring at him, and I'll just yell at him. Hey,
He kind of lifts his head up. What?
you city watch or stag? Or both?
None of your business. And he kind of reaches back down to his food and starts finishing it off. Once he's done, he kind of tosses the bowl
I lean
aside.
back to the guards. I don't think he's one of you.
Well, we know he's not one of us. He doesn't have the helm. They kind of tap their helms at the same time, each making a different ding as they tap it.
Do you guys practice that?
I mean, they kind of look at each other like nervously. Yeah.
The nights get lonely, right?
I mean, it's a long walk from here to Swallow. Never from here to Drains, even. You do what you can. You sing the songs that you know. So they look at you and say, "What brings you out here to Sweet Misery?"
I was just meeting a friend.
That gentleman who was over there, says the guy who was perceptive.
Yeah, a bit of a mentor of mine.
Oh, yeah. Don't see too many Vitali around these parts. Guess it's a
I
welcome
imagine
sight.
you wouldn't.
No, they don't like the cold, but he seems to be dressed for it, so I guess he's kind of a local. The guy who spoke to you initially says, "I've heard of him. Yeah, I think his name's Agama. He runs with the Mardigan family." And after he says that, the the guy with the mustache looks at you and says, "Do you run with the Mardigan family?"
The who?
You did say you were from outside, says the guy who's perceptive. So I guess you wouldn't even know anything about that. How do you know Agama? The guy who's talkative says.
I met him in the old country.
Oh,
He found me out, actually, after leaving my family. He taught me a lot. Almost like a father figure.
well, we haven't heard too much in the ways of, him being wanted or anything, so seems like a good fellow. But if he runs with the crowds, we think he runs with the guy with the mustache immediately says, "I don't suggest you get involved with them," is all I'm saying.
Huh. It doesn't sound like the man I know.
Very good. And they kind of nod their heads. Thanks for the drink.
No problem. Enjoy your evening, gentlemen.
You too.
And I'll head this way.
As you kind of get up and start heading that way, the half-orc tosses his bowl aside, and just to the side on his table, and looks to you and says, "What did you want?"
Oh, I was just curious where you came from. You're an interesting-looking fellow.
Well, you mind your own business.
Sounds fair.
Walk away. You walk past him or around the pool the other side.
I probably would cut north of the pool.
Okay.
It's a bit of a cleaner line. There's too many tables in the way.
Sure.
This place is a mess.
It
Who set
really
this
is.
up?
I mean, Ian, go ahead and make a perception check.
Damn, Ian.
As you walk past the other booths and head towards the one that you're in, the one on the north side, you see that the curtain's drawn slightly, and you can only see the silhouette that you're pretty sure of a man, but his eyes are bright green and not like glowing crazy or anything, but they're almost like cat's eyes in the torchlight. Not exactly cat's eyes in the torchlight. And he's looking at you, and when he sees that you see him, he just kind of draws the curtain closed.
I'll give him a wink, too.
Okay. He doesn't seem to return it, just closes his curtain.
I head over here where Igama and others are.
Okay. As you kind of look in, you'd see that there are 3 individuals in there, and unfortunately only one seat available to you, and it seems to be sitting next to the female. So they kind of pull you in.
I set the wine down on the table.
And they close the curtain behind you. And she looks to the wine and she says in Chinese, she says, "Oh, excellent, more wine." She kind of seems to have a bit of a flush to her cheeks as the wine's set in front of her. The gentleman across from you, who you don't know, as there are 2. There's Agama, of course, and then there's another gentleman who has kind of white at the temples, and kind of like a dark brown gray hair. He seems to be wearing the just a normal traveling gi, which is tied so its sleeves are inwards, or kimono rather, not gi. And he has two swords out in front of him on the table. One has a green hilt wrap, and the other one has a blue hilt wrap. And you can make a history check if you'd like.
Okay. Nope. I got a 5.
Okay.
I forgot I was supposed to tell you my numbers.
No problem. I forgot too. But he looks like a veteran. He looks pretty wizened as well, and he's looking at you kind of sternly. And when she says, "Oh, more wine, great," and you see that her cheeks are flushed, he kind of leans in and says, "It's again still speaking in Chinese." Says, "You should go a little slower. We've got a long travel ahead of us."
As I'm walking in, she says that I'll pass the bottle immediately to what was it, Igama.
Okay.
And I'll let him distribute it as he chooses.
Okay. He does so, but it's pretty quiet at this point.
I ask Igama what I missed.
Well, she finished the last bottle by herself, and our friend Komaki hasn't had any. And he kind of shakes his head and he says, "I'm not looking to get drunk. I'm not in the mood. We need to be level-headed, especially with those watchmen outside."
Maybe just one to take that edge off.
He kind of looks at you and he says, "You're Judd?"
I am.
"My name is Heihachiro Komaki." And he kind of gives you a nod, very solemn, very dutiful, and he says, "Don't take my sternness for having an edge. I am a very serious individual, and it's kept me alive this long. I mean to remain alive, and I mean to remain as sturdy as I am."
Sounds responsible.
I don't know if I don't like it. Fair enough. And he says, "Thank you."
I tell him the guards shouldn't be anything to worry about. The dragons reside in the area. They plan to head north in the morning.
"We plan to leave tonight."
Well, then I suggest we just wait around till they're drunk enough to go to sleep, and then we head on out.
Is there anything you can do to distract them?
Possibly. There's this ogre out here. Orc? What was he?
Half-orc.
Half orc out here. He's wearing their colors, but he's definitely not one of them. They've been eyeing him. They don't seem too keen on the guy.
Igama kind of nods his head. Good information. What do you plan to do?
Maybe we get this half orc drunk and start a bar fight.
Excellent. Well, whatever you need to do, we'll be waiting here. Just let us know what we need to do. We can't really go out into the common room until those town or those city watch leave it. If they see her, they'll know her. And she kind of says, I'm kind of important." And she says, "Come on, Igama, give me another drink." And he kind of pours her a glass. And Komaki grabs the glass and takes it down really quick. And he says, "I will drink every glass that is placed before you, my lady. I must protect you." She has a kind of a crestfallen look on her face as she looks to you like, just like that face that, "Can you get me more alcohol?" kind of face.
I just stare at her blankly. Like, what? Yeah, I'll be back.
All right.
I head back over to the bar to talk to Ian.
Okay, you walk out and you head over to Ian. And once you get there, he kind of walks back over to you and he says, "More sake?"
Better make it water.
You can take and fill your jug at the pool.
Excellent. I motion for the knight to meet me over, I guess down here at the other end of the bar.
Yeah. He comes over.
And also inform Ian while he's standing over here that I don't want that half-orc's glass to be empty.
He nods his head, and then you hear a loud kerfuffle from behind you as you see the half-orc get up from his table and start walking over towards the bar. And he says, Hey, scruffy one, I need more drink. And Ian kind of says, coming right up, and goes towards the bar. He kind of moves in and just kind of pushes you and the portly gentleman aside as he takes his position in between you.
Hey, buddy, let me buy you a drink.
Yeah, you better. And he kind of leans in on you, and you're kind of against the wall because you place yourself in that corner. And he feels intimidating, and he smells the worst. Imagine a person who's adorning himself in dead animal things that are poorly tanned and hided, and probably has never ever ate anything besides meat in his life.
My kind of guy.
Right? He's a man's man.
I lean on the bar, try to brace myself back up to hold his weight.
Okay.
Ask him, so what's going on? What's with these city guards, man? Why are they eyeing you like this?
I don't give a shit. I think it's because I killed one of their friends when I was trying to keep warm. He had a cloak and I didn't. So that's how it works.
You gotta keep warm.
Why were you trying to ask where I'm from?
Oh, they were curious. They're asking a lot of questions about you.
But why would
They don't seem too keen on you being here.
Why would you ask for me? Why would you ask for them?
They were afraid to do it.
Patrick, the guy, the portly gentleman, he actually introduced himself as Patrick. Sorry. It happened. So he would know his name by now, but he says to you, and the half-orc, he says, honestly, I don't know you gentlemen very well. And he kind of looks over to you and he says, and if you're suggesting what I think you're suggesting, I'm going to go back to the other side of the bar, if that's all right.
What was I suggesting?
It just sounded like you were telling this half-orc to go mess with those watchmen. And the half-orc, after that said, he slams his hand on the counter. He says, "That's a really good idea." And he walks over to his table, like in a huff. What would you like to do in response?
As he does that and starts to walk away, I say, "Patrick, why would you do this?"
He kind of looks at you and he winks. And then as he's walking over to the table, he pulls out his spear and hops up onto this table. And he says, "You're going to die like your friend!"
I'll have no part of this, Patrick.
He kind of looks to you and kind of like leans in and just says, "It's okay. It's what you wanted, wasn't it?" And then,
no, Patrick, I never asked for this.
Are you saying it loud enough so the watchmen hear you?
Yes.
Oh, because you guys are talking quiet enough right now, like they can't hear you.
Oh no, this got loud as soon as he slammed his hand on the bar.
Fair enough. The city watchmen are looking over at you. They look at the half-orc and they've already got their weapons. They stand up and it looks like they start fighting. Are you going to engage in the fight or no?
No, I'll be moving straight across the south wall to empty out the booth.
Okay. So the guy that was talkative, the first thing that happens is he gets stabbed right through the neck with that spear. And then, the half-orc lands on the ground, kind of pulls the spear out of him as the other two kind of move around to try and circuit around him and get him in a flank. The second that happens, he kind of bumps into the table, backs away, and suffers a couple of attacks of opportunity, but makes his way towards the door. The second he reaches the door, the guardsmen kind of grab, they were using short swords that they had at their belts. They grab their staves, which are basically, they have a ring at the end, right? And attached to the ring is another ring with a small, blunt metal shaft, which they use to kind of whip into people. It's basically a flail. And they move to get him and beat the crap out of him. A couple of solid blows happen as well. And after those blows hit and he kind of screams out, he pushes himself out of the door, and you can hear him running away from the tavern. The guards follow. The other guard is laying dead, bleeding all over the floor, and Ian's kind of looking at it like, fuck. Fuck.
I never got anywhere, so I hand Patrick 2 gold, 1 for his travel, 1 for that, and tell him to meet me in, what was the name of it? The north one?
You're going to Squallow?
No, I tell him to meet me in Squallow.
Oh,
Follow
okay.
the guards. They'll be leaving in the morning.
He says, "All right."
Does he stay here or does he leave?
He finishes his drink and seems to be waiting for a second. He walks over to the other guard, and you can see him applying first aid. Looks like he's trying to field medic and make an insight check.
11.
Even with that, you're pretty sure that basically he's setting up a lie. When they get back, he's going to say, "I tried to save this guy, but his wounds were too far ahead," kind of situation.
So he appears to intend to stay here.
Yeah. Because the guard's stuff is still sitting at the table. They're coming back.
Yeah. I was going to loot that. Oh, well. I tip Ian. Say sorry.
Wait. Do you look over at the guard's body intently?
Not intently. But as he's walking over there, there's probably a little bit of a... What's the word?
A sad look on your face?
A little, yeah.
Okay. He grabs the coin pouch, pours it out on the floor. Looks like about 15 gold. He pulls 7 for himself, puts the rest in the bag, and throws it over to you. Ian kind of nods at you guys, like not caring.
I'll leave 3 for Ian and take 5 for myself.
Yeah, Ian says you can keep the coin as long as the fat one's willing to clean up that body. Patrick kind of leans over as he's still applying the fake bandages, and he leans over and he says, "Yeah, I got it. No worries. Thanks, Ian."
I shrug and say it looks like a city problem to me and go over and get my people.
All right. They look at you as you open up the curtain, and they say, "Are we heading out?"
I gesture that we should be moving.
Okay. You start to head out. Make a perception check as you're leaving.
Where was the door? Could you mark it? Is it straight across from the pool? Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, never mind. Perception check, you say?
Yep.
25.
You were really good on those perception checks. Up on the floor above you, looking straight down at you from a position kind of above and to the east, you see a woman, pale skin, long blonde hair, and she's wearing kind of like a purple dress, but more of just like a shift than anything else, just like a slip-on. She's looking down at you, and she's holding a strange dagger in her hand. Her eyes are also bright green, and she's kind of looking down at you, just intently. With that check, I mean, it's absolutely certain that she's been watching you, and she's probably been watching you the whole time you've been here.
I'll tap the gamma and kind of gesture in that direction, give her a wink, and say we should go.
Okay.
Faster.
The lot of you head out the door. We're going to go to the theater, and theater of the mind, basically just slipping to the common front page. As you exit out of the tavern and start heading off into the world, your intent is to head to Drayen's, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what I would like you to do is, just because we're going to be traveling at night and we're going to be traveling to avoid guards, make a survival check.
10.
Okay. You spent a lot of the night kind of trying to just keep away from the guards and not so much making much headway in. And it's getting rather late as you arrive kind of late afternoon, evening time. It's getting dark, and you know that it's still a pretty good amount of travel to the city, or to where you would enter the city. What would you like to do?
Just hole up as best we can and get out of sight. I don't know. Hauling a drunk girl through the dark is not going to go well.
She seems to have sobered up a bit in the hour that you've been traveling.
I mean, if she seems capable, then I guess slow the pace, but try to push on as long as we can.
Okay.
Get a head start.
As you're kind of, looking for where you're going, Komaki kind of leans into you and says, "I've served as a woodsman for my former master, quite competently. Do you need any assistance in finding your way?"
Oh, absolutely. If you can be of assistance in this dark, I can hardly see where I'm going.
He kind of nods, and
I gesture the direction we're trying to get and tell him I'll do a little more paying attention on what's going on behind us if you can focus on where we're going.
He goes into his bag, and you see him pull out a very small kind of paper lantern, and he lights it. It lets out a dim light, but you see that the paper in the back is kind of thickened, and the paper to the front is like thinner, so that it's almost functioning kind of like a bullseye lantern. And he kind of like hands that up to you, and then he kind of says, "Keep an eye on the grounds here, and let me know what we're looking for." And as you kind of travel around, make another survival check, this time with advantage.
18.
You and Komaki do well to find your way. Another 6 hours in the night traveling, and Mariko is actually really tired. Igama is pretty sturdy, a Vitali who has seen the world, and so is Komaki. Go ahead and do me a favor and make a Constitution saving throw for you. See how you're holding.
Sure. 12.
Not bad. You're getting the yawns, which is causing Mariko to yawn and get even more tired. But you personally are not struggling to carry on. You're just, just feeling a little bit tired. Your passageway into Drayens is an old sewer system that connects to the current sewer system. And it's not dirty and horrible because it's old. It's kind of had time to dry out and not be gross. And the portion of the sewer system in the new side, you don't really go into it very, very long, and you go into more of the maintenance tunnels than the actual sewage pipes and whatnot. But another half an hour or so, and you're actually inside of the city at a safe house for the Mardigan family in the district, the Noble District, where you want to be. Mariko kind of quickly moves into the safe house when Igama kind of leads you in, and she moves in to find a comfortable place to lay down. She finds what looks like a bed and falls into it. Komaki kind of looks to you and says, "You're keen-eyed, and you have a strong sense of awareness. It seems that without your distraction, we probably would have been stuck there." He kind of nods his head and then bows slightly to you.
Bow back and tell him we probably still could have made it. They didn't seem to do interested in us.
He still seems appreciative. Igama kind of walks over to you and hands you a bag. You can feel that it has 10 coins in it. When you open it up, you see that they're platinum. 100 gold pieces worth of platinum, 10 platinum. And he says, "As promised." Are you interested in seeing her work tomorrow morning?
Her work? What is her work?
She's a Chohan. She's the dealer. She rolls the dice. It's a gambling hall. You're invited to come if you'd like to spend some of that coin.
Sure, we can check it out, I suppose.
All right, very good. You can sleep here if you'd like, or you can go back to your own abode. You would. This is knowledge that you now have, but you would have had in character already. You do actually have a house in the city, a very small house in the city, in the market district.
I pull Igama aside after the payment and let him know that I saw, the green eyes behind the curtain in the far booth, the woman on the upper floor that also had the green eyes and the odd dagger.
What did the dagger look like? Make just an intelligence check to kind of think about it.
13.
Good enough. It looked like the blade was actually fashioned out of 2 serpents.
I ask him if he knows what that means.
He kind of nods his head. I do know what that means, but I don't know why they were watching us. The twin serpents is the symbol of a faction known as the Conglomerate. Mages. We have no magic users here.
Huh.
I don't know about the eyes in the corner, though. Green eyes is not really something very common, to say the least, but perhaps they were associated, the two of them. Or perhaps it was the same person the whole time.
That'd be a neat trick.
Well, if she's a part of the conglomerate, then she's probably some sort of spellcaster.
That's on the watch's back. I don't know which of us she was watching.
Fair enough. Good
And
advice.
tell him that I will stay here since we're tired already.
Okay. And you go to sleep, and so does everyone else. When you wake up in the morning and head on to the gambling house, you do so with a hired palanquin, basically held up by two strapping young lads who carry the palanquin. The only person who's put into the palanquin is the girl, and she is taken on to the gambling house with you guys in tow. When you arrive there, there's actually quite a few people who you have seen about town, who you wouldn't think would be here. There's a priest from the priestly district. You would know the priest's name as Eric Yondelson. He's a priest of Averio, but apparently he's here to gamble, and whatever else. There's a couple of nobles that you don't know by name, but you've seen kind of hoity-toity in court and in loud speeches to the common public in the city while you've lived here. And just real quick, here's that girl. That's what she looks like. Anywho, you enter in, and basically there's a large tatami mat out in the middle with people all around it, and then there's a single spot for her to sit and a small table out in front of her. She comes out there in a very fine kimono. When she sits down, the first thing she does is she pulls the sleeve off of one side, revealing her naked shoulder. And you can see that she has wrap around her, breasts and lower torso underneath the kimono. The kimono kind of drags to, her side as she sits elegantly at that seat, and very ceremoniously takes the dice, two of them. Hold on a second. Like so, in her hand, throws them into the cup, actually bouncing the dice off of the table in front of her, so they hop up a bit, snatching them out of the air with the cup, and then quickly shaking the cup and slamming it down. And she says, place your bets. And you, if you are gambling, you would know that the result can be anywhere between 1 and 20. There are 2 dice, which are 20-sided inside of the cup. And if you get basically the goal here is if you get one of the numbers that she selected, you get a payout of twice as much as you spend it. If you get in between both of them exactly, the exact median between the two, you get 3 times as much. And so everybody who loses pays the people who win, basically.
I sit back and watch a few rounds.
Okay. You would know that it would only go, a couple of times. I'm basically going to say, if you are going to play, I'm going to take these dice again, and I'm going to roll them once. And you can decide if you want to play or not, and you'll just choose a number between 1 and 20.
Sure. 16.
Okay. And how much are you betting?
50 gold.
Okay. This is probably like the 3rd or 4th hand that you've seen, or 4th round of the game that you've seen, and you say 50, 16, and the bettor, or the guy who's taking the bets is kind of walking around, takes your bet, and the payout is for 16. And you see the dice results are 16 and 19, so you get paid twice your amount. Anybody who got 19 would have gotten twice their amount, and then in between 16 and 19 would be what, 17, or 18 even, 17 or 18. Oh, it's a flaw in the game. But anyway, 17 or 18 would have gotten a payout of 3.
Yay!
Cool deal. So double your money. Lots of people bet on other things and lose their money. And the game seemed to be going on pretty well. But then what you notice is that they're kind of like ending it. The game's kind of ending out. And The room kind of starts to go dark. Completely pitch black. Make a perception check for me.
8.
You're not sure where it's coming from, its source, but by the time you start kind of like looking around for it and detecting it for a source, the entire room is completely solid black, and you can hear gasps and shrieks, like as people are confused and bumping into each other. And the next thing you hear is, "In the name of the conglomerate, the laws of those who practice wizardry, you are condemned, Mariko." And then you hear a lancing sound as a blade enters flesh, and then screams. Some guys grunting out in confusion, and then the darkness fades away. Mariko's laying on the table, like positioned in front of her, kind of just sprawled out onto the tatami, and there's a bit of blood out on the ground in front of her.
I can just sit there.
Okay. People start running to her and kind of looking to her, confused as to what's happened here. The priest, Eric Yondelson, kind of walks over to her and says, "Well, she's brought on a good game, so I suppose it's only right." And he kind of reaches down and says, "In the name of the saint, he who lanced the dragon, I cure this wound that has been brought to you, you who are unworthy of such hate." And you see the wound kind of start to stitch closed, but as it starts to stitch closed, you also notice that the veins around the wound, even from your distance you can see it, are kind of a greenish color, and her face still has a pallor to it that's kind of a bit bad. And Eric, the priest rather, kind of looks to her and says, "She seems to have some sort of poison within her." And he starts kind of trying to figure it out.
I continue to watch this happen.
Okay. A lot of people are leaving. The only people that are still currently in the place are you, Agama, Eric, her guard, obviously, and probably a member of the Mardigan family, a representative of the Mardigan family. And the Mardigan family member kind of goes over to Agama and says, you can hear loud enough, he says, "This is unacceptable. Why was the conglomerate after her?" And Agama says, "I do not know. She is the dice roller that you requested, my Lord Mardigan. And we brought her to you with whatever baggage that she might have had." And the Mardigan kind of shakes his head and says, "This is unacceptable. We've paid good money to get her, good coin to get her here. And this is not the only game that she will ever play. We need her in full spirits." He looks over to the priest and he says, "Lord Yondelson, can you cure her?" And he looks over to the Mardigan member and says, "She has a poison that unfortunately I do not have the means of curing. It requires a root that is not common in Drayans, and is common in the city of Oku to the east." And you hear Komaki from across the way say, "No, she's not going back. She's not going back. We're not going across the border." And Yondelson kind of shakes his head. "A good friend of mine, Rignar Whitebeard in Squallow, he's an alchemist. He might have some of the root. It is known as Genesis root. It needs to be applied to her and her wound, or she'll remain perilous until it is, or until she dies of starvation. This poison is beyond me, but I can detect that it will keep her body locked like this, unless she is strong enough to overcome it, or unless you can find that root." He says, "Lord Mardigan, I will take my leave. I've done what I could, and I've paid out to the house." And he leaves. And the Mardigan says, "Obviously, we will tell no one of this." Yondelson stops and kind of turns around and says, "When it comes to the conglomerate, I wouldn't want to get invested in entangling myself with them at all. So you'll have my word that nothing will come of me, or nothing will come of my church. I will tell no one. You're welcome back here." And he leaves. Igama kind of looks to the Mardigan and says, "So Squallow, Looks back over to you and says, "You helped us get her out. Can you help us get her back? Or help us get her in? Can you help us get her back out?"
So we're going to take her to the route and not the route to her?
Well, I suppose we can keep her here. We can go get the route ourselves. That's a better idea. You're a smart man. I
Oh,
am not.
I just kind of kicked myself. Shit.
The samurai that travels with her, Komaki, he kind of comes over to you and says, "If I can get a cot or why is my brain not working? The thing that you put people on and carry them. What's it called?
Gurney?
Yeah,
Stretcher?
if I can get a gurney set up, I can transport her by myself. I think, without your assistance. But I will follow along with you, so she's cured as quickly as she can be."
I mean, how big was that palanquin?
Ha! The palanquin's not ours to take, but we could hire one, I suppose.
And she came here in it. Why not take her home in it? How are you going to get her out?
It's fair. Well, we could take her out the normal way. Well, we could leave the normal way too. And Gama says, "We have no reason to hide. She was the one that did. But if we put her in a palanquin, they're not going to search it. They'll allow her out. Probably. Do you think so? And you know that the City Watch would actually check the cart, check the palanquin.
I mean, I could get the palanquin around the city watch, right?
Yeah, you sure could. Okay, is that your goal then? Basically, load her
Yeah,
up in a
okay.
palanquin. Pay
Guide that back to the Mardigans. They'll have to get, security set up against the conglomerate to protect her,
right.
unless they think she's dead.
They must think she's dead. They hopefully think she's dead. The
Also, so who hired the wizard dice roller? Because this just seems like not a fair game anymore.
Mardigan kind of looks over at you and says, "Don't think too much on that and don't talk too much about it."
You got it, buddy. I start looking around for loose coin as people ran out.
They make a investigation check real quick.
24.
12 gold coins. Okay, so you take the palanquin down into the sewers, and then, or take the palanquin basically through routes that you know the City Watch is not going to be as watchful, and do your best to try and use your cunning to overcome the problems there. Do me a favor and make me 2 checks. Check number 1 is a persuasion check. Check number 2 is, if that check, depending on how that check goes, it'll
Persuasion is a 6.
make an athletics check.
Athletics is a. Do I do anything special since it's gold?
It'll roll higher than normal. Yeah, it's
Oh,
got
15.
expertise in it. So you try and kind of negotiate your way through the City Watch, and it goes kind of south, so you kind of back away and forget that. Instead, what you end up doing is you take the palanquin and negotiate it away from the people who are carrying it, and then you and Komaki basically take the palanquin and go up on a higher route, basically jumping from building rooftop to building rooftop with a gap a foot between each building, making your way across where the watch normally keeps, and making your way out of the town that way, or out of the city that way. The next day, you end up traveling with palanquin, tiresome work to be sure, but you and Komaki, Igama stayed behind. But you and Komaki are traveling to Squallow to get her to the route. And that's where we'll leave off. You're going to be heading to Squallow. The very first session, you'll be entering into the town of Squallow with Mariko in palanquin, and you being assisted in carrying her. You can also lose the palanquin and just make kind of like a makeshift gurney and just travel with her instead that way. So
I thought we were still leaving her and just going to get the route and coming back.
where were you? Why would you need to hide her in a palanquin?
Just to take her back to the Mardigan safe house.
Rewinding. You are not taking her to the route. You're just so she's handled. That's fine. I misunderstood you. You leave her. No, he wants to take. No, that's right. That's why I kind of forced myself on you. Komaki
He won't leave her.
he wants to take her with him to the route so she can be healed as quickly as possible.
Pretty sure we get there with a root and back faster than we could carrying her.
He agrees, and fine. He's so rewinding. Apologies. I misunderstood what you said because I thought I had asserted myself, but I apparently didn't because I didn't even remember that I asserted myself and why. He says he'll stay.
I thought I was pretty clear.
He says he'll stay with her, and then Agama says he will go with you to the town of Squallow. So you and him travel to Squallow without any problems, and without having to hide and sneak through, just to get out of the district, really, and make your way to the town of Squallow. How about that? So
Sounds good.
that'll be the leave-off point. The very first session, you'll be entering into the town with Agama. Okay. Any questions?
Patrick there?
Patrick may or may not be there. That will be something we'll have to determine first session.
He better be there. I told him to meet me there.
All right, fair enough.
He never listens.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and kill the stream. And thank you. You're set up. Do you have any questions for me before I do?
Not before this dies, no.
Okay, cool.